traveling abroad is definitely a necessity, especially in your career, especially a performer. I mean, people want to see you, you know, they want to see you. So it's necessary that you get out there and see the people that you're inspiring and the people that want to see you. And it's a necessity to go traveling, to go abroad. I'm abroad.
I live in New York City. 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 Yeah.
Sometimes you have to go away from a city like this and work someplace else and develop your work and then come and show it in the city. Sometimes that is a solution. There are many places. Also, you don't have to come to New York. There are many places you can go. I mean, there are people working in, of course, Los Angeles, in Seattle, in Canada, many places that you can go and find a community of artists.
If you're thinking about coming to New York, first figure out if you can do what it is that you really want to do artistically where you are, because you might actually end up having more resources there than you have here. It's really a tough place, and you have to be focused. You have to know what it is that you want to do, or you'll be eaten alive.
When I began, you came to New York so that you could audition in New York, so that you would then leave New York to do your work. There was really very little in between. And then slowly, once you got known regionally, you could occasionally work off-Broadway. Now it's so difficult because regional theaters don't have companies that you can go and become a part of. And I would always advise kids to find a good BFA program and then come to New York and start, or go to Chicago, or go to Seattle, or Minneapolis, or wherever they think they can become part of a active theater community.
This is where hip-hop started. And this is where hip-hop has probably been most commercially successful with respect to the music industry and perhaps fashion. But those other tenets of the culture, those other elements, if you will, and branches have really flourished outside of New York. So it's nice to be outside of New York sometimes, but I think there's still something special about the streets and the hardness and the concrete and the asphalt that I think contribute to the culture.
It's important to see theater that is in other countries. It's important to meet people artists who think differently. All of my assumptions every time I go to a foreign country are challenged, and I have to identify what I actually believe in and what I actually just inherited.
For me, it's really important to be able to go out and get to an audience that wouldn't come here or in some way can't come here. That's going to Europe or going to Asia. It's essential for performing artists to play to as many different kinds of people as possible.
It's a big part of how I make my income. I travel a lot, and but being based from New York, or even more specifically Brooklyn, there's a thing to it that's cool. It like adds a value, to you. It's like, oh, wow, that person's surviving in one of the hardest cities to survive in. But it's not really that hard to survive in. But anyways, that's the perception.
We don't get hired here, we get hired everywhere else. We get hired to go as, ambassadors of art to Africa and Morocco and and Europe and all kinds of, and to the West Coast and East Coast. But New York, we've probably been here 3 times, right?
Over the last 10 years?
Because that's the nature of the business, I think, in general. Every state is always trying to import art.
I remember saying to Peggy Shaw, so do you think that if we put together a show, we could tour it? And she was like, oh, yeah, totally. You could totally tour a show, absolutely. You could go to London. We go to London all the time. And I said, and so how would we do that? Like, how would we get a booking? And she said, no, you get on a plane, you go to London, and then you just go to the Dyke Bar, and then you just hang out, you tell people you have a show. Somebody will give you a place to do it. And I said, and you can buy food and stuff. And she said, you steal your food. And I was like, okay, all right, maybe that's not going to work for me. Even though I would like to be that person so much, that's just not the way it's going to go.
It can be so lonely, like to wake up in another city where you don't know anybody and you don't know where you are, or you don't know how to get to you don't know basic things about where do I get breakfast food.
For the past 2 years, I've spent possibly more time outside of New York than I have in New York. And I am tired. I'm tired.
I got invited to perform, to join Cirque du Soleil. And so they took me away from Manhattan for about, I think 6-7 years, maybe a little longer.
Hello, girls!
But I told people, I work in Vegas and I live in Manhattan. I didn't want to have residency there. So I lived in a hotel the whole time I was there.
Are you feeling sexy?
I was missing Manhattan, missing all my friends, missing the energy, missing the vibe. The idea that you could walk down the street anywhere around the corner, anywhere, Manhattan. I could walk out the door and wind up talking to a policeman, a writer, a politician. Las Vegas, it didn't get that because it's this kind of transient town, and I can't live like that. I like walking and like the idea of getting around by foot and talking to people like this.